A major coastal storm is about to get underway. That's going to slide up most of the east coast of the U.S. We are tracking it and talking about the impacts over the next few minutes. What's going on, guys? Certified meteorologist Jonathan Keg is back with you. Also, had the latest on Jerry. It's close to the Caribbean. Some impacts will be felt from that tropical storm, and the chill is settling in the lower 48. That's a little bit later on in the video, so stick with me. If you're new here, we track all things weather without some of the garbage that's floating around on the internet these days. We're going to get right to it. Here is our system. It looks like a discombobulated mess, and it will be by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. However, flood threat increases for Florida, especially on the coast, early through Friday morning. And then I think by Friday afternoon, it starts to wind down. But then the main event really gets going, and put that into real time there. That's through Sunday morning at 8 as it really works its way up the coast. Would take you back towards the Carolinas. The wind or the arrows on the screen represent the wind direction. So as the center of circulation of this thing kind of passes parallel to South Carolina as of Saturday afternoon, we have very strong onshore flow from all the way up into New England down towards Virginia Beach, Ocean City. So some coastal issues, some coastal flooding already going to be likely with the salt water, the ocean pushing in from those winds. And you see the heavy rain working up through east central North Carolina. This is Saturday night, and then really pushing in towards the Delmarva, back towards Philly, New York City, and then just look what happens here. I mean, if that verifies just like this, and we have that center of low pressure again going up the Chesapeake Bay, that is some very strong onshore flow again, right into Delaware, right into New Jersey, also coming down the sound here into Manhattan. So we'd be watching for that water rise from the wind pushing the water. So a whole lot of impacts coming our way. They start where they're starting now as it tries to develop off the Florida coast in Florida, and it's going to be with us all the way up through the Canadian Maritimes as we get into the early stages of next work week. Setting up as we move into tomorrow afternoon, again, coastal flooding is going to be an issue from Miami down or really from Port Canaveral, Florida, so halfway up central Florida, and then eventually all the way up to the Florida coastline with that strong onshore flow as the wind increases there. That's tomorrow, Friday afternoon, and that guy is going to continue to work its way up the coast. So here's the rainfall forecast over the next 5 days, where you see the darker green and especially the yellow and the orange. That's where I'm anticipating the heaviest rain. So the heaviest rain should cling to the coast or bring out the dabber, though. But you see some places again across the Outer Banks, 4 or 5 inches of rain. I could see that getting even higher than that in isolated spots towards Virginia Beach, about 3 inches. And then as it kind of button hooks back in and gets pulled back in towards the mid-Atlantic coastline, we're talking 4 or 5 inches of rain again towards New Jersey. You see that orange highlight again towards Long Island and Boston. I mean, we're talking again upwards of 3 to maybe 6 inches of rain in spots where you see that yellow and especially the orange color right onto the coast. Certainly to a lesser degree as we move up towards Maine and New Brunswick, the rain gets a little bit lighter, still heavy at times in southern Maine, closer to Bangor, anywhere about 1 to 2 inches of rain. So a very expansive coastal low. It's a nor'easter, so it is non-tropical in nature. There's a whole sciency deal behind that on why this is not uh, a tropical system, even though impacts might look like one. It's getting its strength from differences in temperature and pressure in the atmosphere, whereas we know the tropical systems get all of their strength from the heat engine, from the warm waters of the Atlantic Ocean in our case. So not going to get a name or anything like that, but impacts would be similar to a tropical storm. And we likely will have tropical storm force gusts here. We're taking this into Saturday night, and just look at the onshore winds here. The wind flow right into the Outer Banks. So this is just going to add to the already big time issues we have seen brought on by the distant hurricanes Umberto and Imelda, what, about 10 days ago now? And that is just going to add that wind. Let's put the dabber. I mean, that's going to be 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts pushing all of that water back into the shoreline, and that is going to be what we're most concerned with. You see it ramping up further. This is going to be Monday morning. Look at that area of low pressure right there. And then right along the coast, getting into Manhattan, we're talking about 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts. Again, Long Island screaming. Look at that wind gust pushing 70 miles an hour. That's just offshore there of Long Island coming through and then back around 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So again, this coastal storm means business. It's going to be having significant impacts, and you see that little, it goes up and then back down. Upper level system is going to try to do some weird things with it. That part of the track, or that part of where it kind of settles in, is still a little uncertain as of Thursday night. But what is certain and what looks likely is that this is going to be a pretty decently high impact event for the entire eastern seaboard, especially up into Boston, maybe even extreme southern Maine. So a lot to unpack here over the next couple of days, and a lot to cover up if you have plans. Tonight, frost and freeze alerts are in play. The frost in the blue there, frost advisory, and then in the purple color, that's where we have a freeze warning. We talked on Monday's video or earlier in the week that this would be the kind of the coldest blast of air we've seen so far this season. And there it goes, sweeping to the east. You'll wake up to air temperatures tomorrow in Pittsburgh in the upper 30s, Syracuse around the freezing mark, 39 in Boston tomorrow. So that's the other thing too, as that rain comes up. It's going to bring a little more warmth in, but all in all, it's going to be a pretty chilly rain as that moves in for the weekend along the eastern seaboard. Oklahoma City, we're starting off in the 60s. Orlando, we're still in the 70s. And then turn that around, and it's going to be a very crisp fall day in the east. Detroit, 61 on Friday, 57 in Boston. Portland, we're talking air temperatures into the mid 50s. The heat, though, comes back. We talked about this too, that this little blast of cooler air, especially in the upper Midwest, it's not going to last. You see San Antonio getting back to 93 already, and that's going to kind of surge right up through the upper Midwest. So by the time we look at these temperatures into next week, we'll be back above normal in Minneapolis, and maybe even up to International Falls as well, as some of that warmth really starts to head in that direction. Latest on Tropical Storm Jerry. Again, it's riding on the southern end here of the cone. It is lifting north, but you see there the thunderstorms, the darker reds there. We are getting impacts in the islands from Guadeloupe, Martinique, and then getting into Barbuda, Antigua. This eventually will work towards the Virgin Islands. It's going to continue to work to the north and west. A lot of this is deceiving a little bit because it's the cloud tops that are kind of erupting and pushing out, so it looks like a pancake flattening out there. So just because it's red over Guadeloupe, Martinique, it doesn't mean that it's actually storming as heavily as it might appear. Where we see the dark red here, that is where we have the nasty stuff. Still, though, some minor to moderate impacts coming to the islands, and we'll zoom in. This is as of 8 o'clock tonight, just to give you an idea on where this is. Again, from All Saints and into parts of the Northeast Caribbean, Leeward Islands. Still watching it for you, of course, because we are likely getting and going to receive tropical storm impact. So let me take this cone out, and of course, the 2 p.m. We'll get the names to pop up through the banner there. Don't think we're gonna get it. We might get a direct hit in the extreme Northeast Caribbean. But by and large, the core of the system should remain just to the north and east of the Caribbean. And then we see that big turn here as this likely approaches hurricane status. We'll see if it makes it. It's been beaten up by shear for the better part of its life. But nonetheless, it does have the potential to become the fifth hurricane of the 2025 hurricane season. By the way, we might get a very sneaky named storm maybe as early as tonight, and it's this big non-tropical area of low pressure. That's Jerry. You see that spin up there? I mean, this is way northwest of the Azores, but you see the spin? So, but around the center, this little bite-sized thing, you see the yellow pop up? It's firing thunderstorms. As of 9 o'clock on Thursday night, the Hurricane Center has upped the percentage that this does develop. The next named storm, by the way, is Karen. Yeah, I know. The memes are going to be crazy. I would love to get rid of that name, though, up in the middle of nowhere where it's not going to impact anything. But Hurricane Center might end up naming this, and it is taking on tropical or at least subtropical characteristics. Again, you can clearly see the difference of the two. You see how that has like a comma shape? And then there's Jerry, where it's more compact with the thunderstorms around its center. That is the definition of a tropical cyclone. We know them as tropical depressions, tropical storms, and hurricanes in this part of the world, but it has to have the thunderstorms firing around a well-defined center for one. It's starting to do that a little bit. It is also still attached to fronts, so we might get the subtropical tag because it's kind of like that cyborg. We're getting close to Halloween where it's kind of part tropical, where it gets its strength from the warmer waters of the ocean, and then part non-tropical, where it's still tied to fronts and still getting some of its energy from differences in temperature and pressure in the atmosphere. So that is kind of tropical meteorology one-on-one in full display. There's the difference between the two storms. We'll see if the Hurricane Center crosses off another name tonight or by early Friday morning. We'll have to wait and see. Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll keep you posted on that coastal system. If you found this content helpful, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Join the growing team as we try to take down some of the misinformation and just craziness that's on the internet these days when it comes to the weather. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.